We have made it to the trade deadline here in year number 1 at the Chicago White Sox franchise here on MLB the Show 25. This is our first major opportunity to really get our hands and fingers into this roster. Wow, that sounded really weird. But you get where I'm going with this. This is our first opportunity to really shape this team into what we want it to be for the future. We're also going to get through the month of August as well. We're going to get to see the overall ratings and potentials for our draft picks, who of course we selected in the last episode. That includes the talented infielder Oswaldo Escobedo, who we drafted 10th overall. So as we go into this trade deadline, I mean, it's no secret that we are not going to be looking for the finishing pieces of a contender. We are 40-66. We are amongst the worst teams in baseball. As we look at the players on the trade block, there are some very talented players here, and I think it's a matter of finding the right players who are currently in the wrong situations, whether it's guys having really good seasons in the minor leagues or maybe players who have had disappointing seasons and are looking for a fresh start. I think those are the types of players who we're really going to be looking at. As I mentioned, I'm going to take a very close look at some of the top minor league performers in AAA, find guys who are very valuable but don't really have an avenue to playing time in the big leagues, because many of the guys currently in AAA are better than the goofballs we have playing on the big league squad. Along with the draft in the last episode, we also went through the All-Star break. Drew Thorpe made the All-Star team, very well deserved. He's definitely been our best player this year, and he got a small ratings and potential boost, as did everybody who made the All-Star team, or at least everybody who doesn't have that high of a rating. He has been, of course, fantastic with or without his power-ups that we saw during the month of June. We have a handful of young guys, including Thorpe, to be excited about, but this roster obviously lacks veteran talent, and because of that, we're probably not going to be able to make a big splash here during the trade deadline because we don't have many major pieces. Luis Robert is a guy who I think we would be able to get a lot for, given that he has 2.5 years left on a very team-friendly contract. He's had a really strong year offensively. The biggest thing is that the walk rate is way up and the strikeout rate is way down. His plate skills have been really solid, and he's been able to stay healthy. He's played nearly 100 games this year. Health has been a concern for him throughout his career, and he's been able to stay on the field without any injuries. However, still only being 27 years old, and given everything I just said, there's also good reason for us to potentially want to have him stick around, at least for the time being. Bryce Wilson is probably the other veteran that I think we could get quite a bit for, and it could make sense for us to trade him while his value is high. We have plenty of good young pitchers on the big league team and in the farm system, including our recent second-rounder, Alexis Cosmo. Wilson has had a career year. He's missed some time with an injury, but when he's been out there, he's been fantastic. In 80 innings, he has an ERA of 2.71, a whip of 1.07, and a WAR that has already surpassed his career high. Other players who could be available and would probably fetch a lot less include Andrew Vaughn. He's been the same player since his rookie year. Solid offensive player, but not much more. Josh Rojas, good contact hitter, good clutch guy, pretty high walk rate. He's been solid this year, and I think we could get a little bit for him. Mike Tauchman, solid outfielder, another guy with good plate skills. He's had a solid season for us. He is 34 and regressing, though, so again, it's not like we're going to get that much for him. We could strike while the iron is hot for guys like Nick Maton and Bobby Dalbec, who have had career years, although I think fair value would be quite a bit lower than that of Bryce Wilson. We've put pretty much everybody who I mentioned on the trade block to at least gauge offers. The Tigers offered us Max Anderson, former second-rounder out of the University of Nebraska. The Tigers have a logjam in the outfield. I don't really think that would make sense. I wanted to simulate past this Phillies series to make it up to the deadline. The Cubs offered Jamison Tyone for Bryce Wilson. I don't really see a reason to do that. Andrew Vaughn for Jose Alvarado. He's had a really good year in the bullpen for the Phillies. This trade wouldn't be realistic, though. I see no reason as to why the Phillies would entertain that, given that they have Bryce Harper, who's going to be back healthy in a few weeks. We split the first 2 games against the Phillies, and that brings us here to the last one. We currently trail 2-0 in the 8th, but we've got 2 on, 2 out. Mike Tauchman's hitting streak on the line against Christopher Sanchez as he puts it on the ground, and Bryson Stott makes the play. We had an opportunity there against Sanchez, who had pitched the entire length of the game so far, and sure enough, we end up losing 2-0. Drew Thorpe gets the loss. He allows a pair of homers, one to Bryson Stott, the other to top prospect Aiden Miller, who was recently called up and has been awesome for the Phillies up to this point. The Phils have been one of the best teams in baseball, so the fact that we were able to keep this series pretty competitive honestly is a win. And we even won a game, taking the first one 5-3 before only scoring one run over our last two. Rough showing certainly for the offense, who might be the worst lineup in baseball. Statistically, I think we are right there at the bottom of just about every major statistical category. Bryce Wilson pitched the second game in what could be his final outing as a White Sox. He got the loss, but he pitched pretty well, 6 innings of 2-run ball. So we have made it to July 31st. The Cardinals offer as a trade Bryce Wilson for first baseman Luken Baker. I think if we were to move Wilson, we could get more than this. Not that Baker's a bad get, but I think we could potentially shoot a little bit higher for the Stars. So here we are, July 31st. It's the big day. We're not just going to make trades for us, but other teams around the league. But we will start with our team. I think it would make sense to trade Mike Tauchman. He has a year and a half left of control. He's 34 years old. Give him an opportunity to play for a winning team. He's had a solid year this year, and it's not like we'd be able to fetch a lot for him, but maybe we can find a diamond in the rough prospect in somebody's farm system. I think the team who needs him the most is probably the Padres. Their outfield is rough. They've got two stars with Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill, who are the two best players on the team, but otherwise it is bad. Jason Hayward is their third outfielder. Now, San Diego's in an interesting spot because they're 49-60. They're 9 games out of the wild card spot. It doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs, but you have to remember, this is the Padres. They're always looking to contend. They're always looking to win. And even when their record is poor, I think they're still going to make a swing. The guy I landed on in their system is first baseman Romeo Sanabria, an 18th rounder in 2022. He was recently called up to AAA, where he's been raking. Granted, it's a small sample size. He's only played 18 games, 73 at-bats, and he's already cooling off a little bit after playing really well early. But I like the skill set. I think there could be something there for him. He's the 18th ranked prospect in the Padres system, which is not a great system to begin with. He is the 12th ranked first baseman. Keep in mind, you're not going to find many great prospects at first base, although that's kind of changing with Bryce Eldridge in the first round a couple years ago. Nick Kurtz and Jack Caglione, both drafted in the top 10 a season ago. We could probably get a little bit more from the Padres, but I want to factor in the fact that Sanabria has had a good season in the minors and probably will go up a couple extra ratings at the end of the season with our production-related rating boosts. We're also going to trade away Dan Altavilla, who hasn't been great as of late, but I would say he's been our most consistent reliever. I think a contender wouldn't mind the addition of him. Now, he hasn't really played much big league ball before this season in the last 5 years, so because of that, I don't think his price is going to be very high, especially considering he's a 67. The Braves' bullpen has not been very good, though, this year, outside of Joe Jimenez and Raisel Iglesias. And rather than looking for a prospect, I figured I'd rather find someone who maybe can contribute for us on the big league team. And I found Charles LeBlanc, a guy who I'm already familiar with. We had him in the Marlins series a couple years ago, and I really liked using him. I thought he was a pretty solid player. He's been pretty good in AAA, hitting .260, OPS in the mid-700s. He has a negative WAR. He has not been very good defensively, but he has been red hot over his last few games. He can play a bunch of different positions in the infield and the outfield. We're going to have to throw in Mason Adams as well. He's been pretty good in AA, but I think we can do without him. LeBlanc will join the big league team immediately, and he will play fairly regularly. I think he's better than a lot of guys we currently have on the big league roster right now. I also wanted to add to the outfield since we lost Mike Tauchman. Looking for someone who's probably in the minor leagues currently, who's crowded behind other good outfielders and can contribute on the big league team. I think Akil Baddoo would be the perfect player. The Tigers go like 6 deep in the outfield, and they just don't really have a spot for him. Baddoo had a really good rookie year, but has not been able to replicate it since 2021. He's been quite good, though, in AAA. WAR at 2.5, OPS nearing 800. The Tigers just don't have a spot for him. They traded for Mike Yastrzemski. They have Kerry Bonds. They have Parker Meadows. They have Riley Green. And in the minors, they have guys like Justin Henry Malloy, who I thought about, but I don't think the Tigers would be willing to trade him. They've got Max Clark, who's one of probably the 5 best prospects in baseball. He's played really well in AAA and will probably compete for a roster spot as soon as next year. there's just not a spot for Akil Baddoo. He's their 7th outfielder. So we're going to trade away Jake Eder. He's been solid in AAA, formerly a really good prospect with a few different organizations. We're also going to send them Sean Gusenberg. He's a utility minor leaguer. I think it's a pretty fair trade. The Tigers get Jake Eder, who they think they can fix, with pitching coach genius Chris Fetter. And we add a guy in Akil Baddoo who's also going to join the big league roster right away. So that's going to be our trade deadline. Ultimately, Bryce Wilson and Luis Robert will stay with the White Sox. I almost had a deal for Bryce Wilson. I really thought about it, but I decided against it late. And my thought process here is he's everything that we've kind of been looking for, in the sense of the guy who joined the organization in the offseason and has bought in. He's been terrific this year. I want to explore a contract extension with Wilson in the offseason, and if it doesn't happen, we can trade him away. His value will still be high. That is, unless he stinks the last 2 months of the year, and then in that case, we would have completely fumbled this. As for Luis Robert, for a guy who has 2.5 years left of team control on his contract, the values just were not what I was looking for in terms of the trade offers. We would have needed to have our socks knocked off in terms of getting a big-time prospect through 2, and there weren't many teams interested in doing that. So I would rather just hold on to him, and I think he can be a guy who sticks around in the long term, or, again, maybe we trade him down the line. So, of course, as I mentioned, Charles LeBlanc will be joining the big league team. Akil Baddoo is already on the major league roster. We are going to DFA Brandon Drury. I couldn't really find a fair trade offer for him. So we're going to give him the opportunity to go on waivers and potentially sign with a playoff team, because there's no reason for him to be stuck on the Chicago White Sox. I'm also going to recall up Justin Anderson. He is not allowed to run in like 9 outings in AAA. Now, of course, he pitched in the big leagues in April, and he was absolutely horrific. His ERA was close to 20. So I'm hoping second time's the charm with him. So LeBlanc and Baddoo have been added to the lineup. The bullpen and rotation haven't really changed too much, except for Dan Altavilla's departure, with him now in Atlanta. Let's now talk about some trades across the rest of Major League Baseball, and there were some big ones. The biggest name on the move is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This was kind of a last hurrah with Toronto's core, and they are like 15 games under 500. They've not been able to work out an extension with Vlad. He is going to the Reds, who are 67-42, firmly contending for the World Series. They just need one more piece, and they think Vlad can be that guy. They're giving up a lot. Sal Stewart, Cam Collier, Chase Petty, all top 6 in their system, but when you have the chance to win a championship, it's worth it. Bo Bichette has bounced back after a horrific season last year, and Toronto will send him to Detroit. The Tigers in first place in the Central, looking for more help in the infield. They're going to trade away Kider Montero, who's had a great season in AAA. There's just not really a spot for him on the big league team, so he will join Toronto. And then the last move for the Blue Jays is Jose Barrios to the Cubs. It's a weird one because he has 4 years left on a big contract. He's having a great season with Toronto, and it seems like he should be good for years to come, still at the age of 30. However, with Toronto now just starting to rebuild, it's obvious he's not going to fit the timeline, and his value is at its highest now. The Cubs have been red hot. They have won, I think, 14 games in a row. They have not lost since the All-Star break. They want to make a splash in the rotation, and they'll be trading away Owen Casey, a really good outfield prospect from Ontario. But I think it's worth it. 3.5 years of Barrios for the Cubs, while the Blue Jays add their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th ranked prospects in the system, completely rebuilding the farm system, tearing it down, and preparing for the future. The other major teardown involved the St. Louis Cardinals. They're going to trade Ryan Helsley and Eric Fetty to the Baltimore Orioles. Both of these guys were all-stars this year. Both of them have been amongst the best pitchers in baseball. They're both free agents, and the Cardinals, like Toronto, are looking to start a rebuild. They're going to get the house from Baltimore, most notably elite catching prospect Samuel Basallo, who instantly becomes the #1 guy in the Cardinals farm system. Obviously, Adley Rutschman is here, and the Orioles, they really didn't want to trade him away, but it's not every day you can add 2 all-star pitchers. Vance Honeycutt and Heston Kjerstad also in the deal, going to the Cardinals. This is a huge trade package to give up for 2 likely rentals, but Baltimore's the #1 seed in the AL. They want to go all in, and I think they can afford to trade some of these young guys away because many of their other youngsters have stepped up. Colton Cowser made the All-Star team. Jordan Westberg made the All-Star team again. Jackson Holliday in 100 big league at-bats has been terrific. His rating is likely to skyrocket with our ratings boost in the offseason. So with all those guys really progressing, that makes some of their other key youngsters like Basayo and Kjerstad, who haven't really been able to fit, that makes them expendable, and they can afford to trade those guys for 2 all-star level arms who make this team, I think, the clear frontrunners in the American League. The Cardinals are also trading Nolan Arenado. He has lost a step. He's still good, but with his contract, he has pretty much no value. The Mariners are really not trading anything for him, and the reason why the Cardinals are doing this is so they can get out of this contract. Seattle's not a very good team, but they're planning for the future here, and by adding Arenado, they're going to be set at third base for the next couple of years. The Cardinals are also going to trade away Sonny Gray, who's been terrific this year. He's had an all-star caliber season of his own. He has plenty of time left on his deal, and he is headed to the Astros. Houston still wants to contend. They want to add another arm. They're going to trade Bryce Matthews, who's the number 1 guy right now in their system, along with starter Misael Tamarez. It's a lot to give up, but Houston's getting 2.5 years of Sonny Gray. The Cardinals in all add the number 1, 3, and 5 prospects in their farm system, bolstering the young core. The Angels are trading away Luis Rengifo. Made the All-Star team this year. He has been terrific and is in line for a fat bag in the offseason. The Brewers are looking for another piece in the infield. They're trying to keep pace with Cincinnati, who just got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and the Brewers have so many injuries to their lineup. They're going to trade away 2 high C potential prospects with Robert Gasser, who's been solid in AAA, and then Braylon Payne, their first rounder from a year ago. Sandy Alcantara on the move, staying in the state of Florida, though. He is joining the Rays, who are looking to make a playoff push, currently in second in the AL East. Sandy's had a solid year, 2.5 years left on a team-friendly contract, very similar to that of Luis Robert. The Rays are giving up a lot for him, and teams were not willing to give up a Godfather package like this for Robert. So it'll be Trey Morgan, Dylan Lesko, and Theo Gillen. Gillen was a first-rounder last year. Morgan's had a great season in the minors. And Dylan Lesko, the Rays acquired last year at the trade deadline from San Diego. He's one of the best prospects in their system. Tampa Bay is able to hold on to their 2 best prospects, Carson Williams and Xavier Isaac. They give up a lot, but I think it's worth it for Sandy. Last but not least, Seth Lugo with the Royals is headed to Boston for 3 solid prospects. Starter Luis Perales, probably the big get, along with outfielder Corey Rozier and infielder Yoelan Cespedes. The Royals have been really bad. They are only 3 games ahead of us. So they're going to sell off Lugo and add some solid prospects. So that's our trade deadline. A lot of movement across Major League Baseball. Many of the contenders adding pieces, while teams like the Blue Jays and the Cardinals look to bolster the farm system. So now that we are set for the month of August, we can finally go over our housekeeping stuff. We're going to go through our wheel spin for today in just a second, but first I want to talk about the next unique element of the series. So for those of you who have watched some of my previous MLB the Show franchises, we've been incorporating international free agency, I believe, since MLB 21. It's been a while. It's going to be back this year. There are going to be some similarities to last year in the Giants franchise, but there are going to be some differences. What I can tell you now is that they will still be subscriber custom-made players. If you at home want to make a prospect for the series, make sure to join the Discord server. The link is in the description. Tomorrow morning, the template will open up. You'll be able to create your prospects, and then in the offseason, I'll explain into more detail what international free agency exactly will look like this year. As for the wheel, last episode we picked Penn Murphy, who had been struggling. He landed on the spitting image scenario, which is where we look at what he did in the month of July, and his ratings will change based on how he played. Well, sure enough, Penn Murphy's been ridiculous. Over the 8 games he pitched in July, he has allowed 0 runs. 7 innings pitched, just 3 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and 0 runs allowed. Now, he only pitched 7 innings. It's not like it's a starter's length of action. But since he pitched so well, he's still going to get a nice boost. His rating will go from a 71 to a 75. I'm also going to up his potential from a 71 to a 75. I don't want this to hurt his long-term development. I ended up doing the same for both Justin Anderson and Brian Ramos because I didn't do this previously when they both got the spitting image. So I figured I'm going to do it now. As for the wheel spin today, it was a pretty easy choice for me. A lot of you guys wanted to see Kyle Teal, and I completely agree. He has really figured it out. It took him a little bit, but he's really got it going. Over his last 10, he's hitting .344, 12-13 on-base percentage, had the 3-homer game against the Rays. He is certainly deserving of a wheel spin, so we're going to give him the opportunity to potentially get some nice boosts or face off a penalty. There are both good and bad scenarios set for Kyle Teel on the wheel. So far, the wheel has been generous to us in this series, so hopefully that continues. Here we go. Let's spin that wheel for Kyle Teel. Hey, that rhymed. So we land on struggle bust. Hitting stats go down by 20 for the next 10 games. Well, that's not good. This basically negates the momentum that Kyle Teel has been building. So his contact, power, vision, and discipline will go down by 20 for the next 10 games that he plays in. He's a 57. Keep in mind, it's not just the next 10 games that our team plays in, but the next 10 that he plays in specifically. It's not like we can just sit him for the next week and a half, and then we can just move him back up. No, he actually has to play. We're going to move him down in the lineup, though, given that he is going to likely be an offensive liability the next 2 weeks. We ended up getting one late trade from the Guardians. They saw Penn Murphy's boost. They wanted to take advantage, but Trevor Stephan is not having a very good year. I'm going to say no. So we're going to look at these first 2 games in this series against the Angels because I want to player lock with our new additions. Here in this first game, we will player lock with Akil Baddoo, and then in the second game, we will player lock with Charles LeBlanc. So let's see what the new look White Sox are able to do. It'll be Jack Kachanovich on the mound for the Angels here against Akil Baddoo, who's the first batter up. We have put him in the leadoff spot. I'm curious to see how he's able to do at the top of the order. A fresh start for Baddoo. Things have not worked out with the Tigers over the last couple of years. I'm hoping a new change of scenery will do him well as he lines out to short. It is caught by Zach Neto. Kachanovich, though, hurt his elbow. And obviously, when we talk about pitchers and elbow injuries, you think Tommy John. So after just 2 pitches, he is yanked out of the game, and it'll be Robert Gasser, who they just traded for from Milwaukee in the Luis Rengifo deal, being thrusted into the game for his Angels debut. We ended up scoring a run to make it 1-0. I think it was Josh Rojas who brought the runner home. Akil Baddoo is going to play pretty much everywhere in the outfield. He is a plus defender. He is fast. So I'm confident he will give us a strong defensive production, although this one is going to go off the wall for the leadoff man, Kevin Newman, with Jairo Uriarte getting the start as Newman ends up with a double. Let's move into the second. A lot of offense. Mike Trout hits a 2-run homer, but Nick Maton answers back with a 3-run shot. Another new pitcher is in. Robert Gasser is out, and Caden Dana has come into the game. Fly out to center, first pitch of the at-bat, as it will be caught by Mickey Moniak. Top of the third, same score, bases loaded. This is fascinating. Now, Baddoo is a good clutch hitter. I think his clutch rating is above 80. Another reason why I was excited about landing him. So this right here is his element. 1-2, whiffs on the 12-6. My goodness, what a pitch by Caden Dana. That'll bring us into the top of the 5th. 2-run single by Benintendi adds to the lead. This is already his 4th at-bat in 5 innings. Everybody on the offense is doing well except for him. Sharp grounder to third. Akil Baddoo now 0 for 4 in his White Sox debut. Call him Aaron Judge in the playoffs. Baddoo is usually better against righties, yet he's 0 for 4 against them. Now against the lefty Jose Suarez, he singles into left. First base hit as a White Sox, 1 for 1 against lefties, 0 for 4 against righties. Who would have thought? We would add to the lead late with an RBI walk for Luis Robert and then a 2-run single for Brian Ramos. 9-3 into the 9th. Another lefty is in, Jose Quijada. The Angels have used damn near the entire bullpen. 1-2, flies it into center. Moniak will track it down. I thought that could have blooped for a hit. The White Sox do end up winning this game, though, by the score of 10-3. An RBI triple for Brian Ramos would add to the lead, and the new-look post-deadline White Sox are 1-0. This is a pretty good start. 10 runs on the Angels, who obviously got kind of screwed with the pitching situation, considering Jack Kachanovich got injured 2 pitches into the game. Baddoo was kind of quiet. He goes 1 for 6, but everybody else offensively played really well, along with a solid start from Jairo Iriarte, who started slow but pitched pretty well overall, 6 innings, allowing 3 earned runs. Now getting set for the second game, we're going to player lock with Charles LeBlanc. I do want to mention that that was our 42nd win of the season, and the reason why that is relevant is because the White Sox only won 41 games last year. We have already passed our win total from a year ago, and it's August 2nd. I know we've set the bar very, very low, but that's still an accomplishment that's worth celebrating. It'll be Yusei Kikuchi on the bump for the Angels. He's been terrific this year. 2.19 ERA, 1.07 whip. We got to see him on opening day. Not a great start for him, though. The first 4 guys reach base as Vaughn drives in a pair, making it 2-0. LeBlanc went 1 for 4 with a walk in his White Sox debut as he sends the 1-2 pitch into right, where it will be caught for the first out of the inning by Mike Trout. Finally, Kikuchi's able to retire a batter, as that will bring us into the third. Lou Bob with a solo homer, that would make it 3-0. So far, the pitching's been pretty good as well. LeBlanc rips this one into center. That goes for a hit. And now Chicago's got 2 aboard with 1 away. We would not drive any of them in, and that brings us into the 6th. Same score. 5 shutout innings to start for Jonathan Cannon, who's having one of those games. Grounder to third play is made by the former White Sox, Yoan Moncada. Top 7 we add to the lead. RBI double for Kyle Teal. I guess his ratings penalty isn't affecting him that much. Luis Robert would bring in another run off of a single, but LeBlanc goes down looking on the cutter. Great pitch by Kenley Jansen. One more at bat here in the 9th. It is still 5-0. LeBlanc leads off the inning, 1 for 4 again, as this one is skied into center. Will it have enough carry? No, it certainly will not. Moniak makes the play. LeBlanc goes 1 for 5, and the White Sox win it 6-1. Luis Robert drives in another run off of a solo shot. The Angels actually ended up scoring 3. The top screen lied to us. So we kind of let it get away in the 9th a little bit, but luckily we built enough of a lead with another good showing offensively and a great start for Jonathan Cannon. 8 innings of 1-run ball. There's just no consistency with Cannon. Some games, he's unbelievable. Some games, he's horrible. But that's what we love about him. Now that we've made it into the start of August, we can find out the ratings and potentials of our draft picks. We drafted and signed these players in the last episode. Let's take a look at what we're working with. 99 potential! Hello! George Tovar has 99 potential. Did not see that one coming. The 4th round first baseman out of James Madison. Now, he's raw. Only at 57 overall. Obviously, the power is great. The fielding is great. Both of those may very well make it up to 99. Kind of a late bloomer, though, and he's going to have to play well in order to actually progress. But 99 potential has me excited. Oswaldo Escobedo, the first rounder, looks pretty solid. 71 overall. He's going to be good right off the bat. Contact, plate skills, speed, defense, all look strong, and he has 87 potential. 67, 84 for Alexis Cosmo. His per nines look pretty solid. I felt like they were very similar to Drew Thorpe when selecting him. 63 overall, 89 potential for Pedro Valdez. 52 overall, 89 potential for Sal Casey. So we're getting some high Bs in here. And then look at Douglas Cato. Only 78 potential, but he's a 75 overall. Mashes lefties, solid against righties, good plate skills, he's clutch, and he's lightning fast. I am really intrigued with Douglas Cato. He becomes a big wild card for our plans going forward as we look at the rest of the league. Carlton Ross, I thought he was going to be a little bit better, and the Guardians did not sign their next 2 players. Rolando Bell, I thought about him at number 10. He looks like the real deal. I think Escobedo's the better prospect, but Rolando Bell looks strong as well. Royals had a pretty good draft. Twins had a couple guys we had our eyes on. I thought about Nick Conrath at number 10. I really like his upside. Potential's only an 86, a little lower than I would have hoped, and he's raw. He's only a 60. Freddie Cestaro was my target in the 2nd round. 90 potential, only a 63 though. I had hoped he would have been a little bit better. Astros saved all their good picks for the end. Thomas Daniel, the 2nd overall pick, 88 potential. Pretty bad draft for the Athletics. They whiffed on their 1st rounder. Joey Lincoln, the number 3 overall pick, looks good for the Mariners. Robbie Girard, 72 overall, 81 potential. I really thought about picking him number 10, and if Escobedo was off the board, he was going to be my target. The potential's a little bit low, but he looks like a really good player and someone who I think is going to sim well in this game, which might matter more than initial ratings or potential. There was one other 99 potential player in the draft, and it's James Parnell, who was only drafted 10 picks before Tovar. Both of the 99s were picked in the middle of the draft, and I had thought about Parnell in the 3rd round. He would have been my target in the 4th. Imagine if we had picked him and George Tovar. That would have been crazy. DeAndre Flynn, remember, he was supposed to go in the top 10, slipped all the way to number 39. Looks kind of mediocre with the Marlins, and then with their 2nd rounder, George Groniga, they did not end up signing him. He's going to go to college, it looks like, and might enter the draft in a few years down the road. Gregorio Lucero looks pretty solid with the Mets. Our scouts liked him. Number 1 pick, Tom Daniels, looks like the real deal. 63 overall, 91 potential. George Ramirez looks pretty good. Boris Johnson looks quite strong. Very deep draft for the Brewers. Pirates made out pretty well. Willie Vaccaro, we looked at him at number 10. 64 overall, only 79 potential though. I would have thought it would have been a lot higher given his athletic frame and his physical upside. I liked Rico Santos. He looks quite good. The Diamondbacks have an interesting dilemma at catcher with Gabriel Moreno and first-time All-Star Adrian Del Castillo. Brian Ortiz with the Rockies looks like a stud. Maybe we should have scouted him, although he was picked before we were up, so I guess we were right not to. Daniel Pierre with the Giants, we thought about him at number 10. He looks really solid, 66 overall, 88 potential. The Orioles had about 12 picks, it looks like. And then Anderson Blackburn with the Rays looks really good, 66 overall, 93 potential. He was a guy who I remember that we discovered, and I kind of thought he was going to fall to us. The Rays clearly discovered him well. He ended up in the 2nd round, and he looks like the real deal. I think we ended up with probably the best draft overall, though, which, hard to complain with that. It's obvious our farm system could use some more talent, and we definitely added some with Oswaldo Escobedo, George Tovar, and the rest of the crew. So we're going to simulate up to this series against the Tigers. They're first place in the division. I'd love to play a full game against them. We'll wrap up the series against the Angels, along with 3 in Seattle and 3 at home against Cleveland. We ended up losing the last game against the Angels, and we lost the first 2 against the Mariners. So now we're on a little bit of a losing streak, looking to avoid the sweep. Tied at 5, top 9, runner on, 1 away. Vaughn lines out to center. We're not going to send the runner. Julio Rodriguez is a great arm, and I want to guarantee we give our next batter a chance to drive these guys in with 2 away. The Mariners are going to make a pitching switch themselves, bringing in the former White Sox Gregory Santos. I remember looking at him in the Giants series last year because he also played in San Francisco before going to Seattle, where I was kind of disappointed that the Giants traded him away. He could have been a good piece for us, but he was never good with the Giants. He was pretty good with the White Sox before they dealt him off. Bobby Dalbec will come in as a pinch hitter, replacing Kyle Teal, who is 1 for 12 so far in this series. His ratings penalty certainly taking notice. Dalbec rips the 2-1 fastball into center, right into the glove of Julio Rodriguez. So Gregory Santos gets out of the inning. Big hit. Bobby does not give us a big hit. And now in the bottom of the 9th, the Mariners look to win it. 2-1, 2 away for Cade Marlowe, who's 3 for 3 with a homer. He's driven in a pair. We're going to bring in our high-leverage man, James Karinchak, who started the year really poorly, but he has played a lot better as of recent. ERA has gone below 5, and obviously this is a big spot with Marlowe, the 1-1. Pops it up. Omar Narvaez is now in the game at catcher with Kyle Teal having been replaced earlier. Narvaez makes the play, and we are headed to extras. Bottom 10, Corey Julks brings home a run with an RBI single. We lead 6-5. Penn Murphy, the former Mariner, in for the save. Against J-Rod, swinging a miss. Sweeper goes by Narvaez, so the 1 runner advances to 3rd. J-Rod is safe at 1st, and now there's 2-1 with nobody out. Tying run is 90 feet away from home. The winning run is at 1st and is one of the fastest players in baseball. So Murphy's got himself a challenge as he gets Cal Raleigh to go down looking. The new acquisition, Nolan Arenado, crushes the 1-0 fastball into left field, and the Mariners walk it off. Nolan Arenado, welcome to Seattle. 3-run homer, wins it for the M's. Penn Murphy allows his first earned run since June, and the White Sox have been swept. Arenado ignited that ball into left field. Murphy mislocated the fastball. He was looking to go up and out. The fastball ends up going closer towards the middle, and Nolan Arenado takes full advantage. An unfortunate loss here for the White Sox, who have now lost 4 in a row. Murphy only technically allowed 1 run because of the wild pitch and the extra inning runners rule. Big game, though, for Arenado. He drives in 5. Charles LeBlanc also just got injured, so he'll be out for a week or two, and we're going to bring up Zach DeLoach, who's played well in AAA. I want to reward guys for producing in the minor leagues. So that brings us to this series against Cleveland. We trail 6-4 here in the first game. 2 on, 2 away. Winning run is Andrew Vaughn, but he has to face off against Emmanuel Clase as he pops it into left. It will be caught, and the Guardians win it 6-4. Now a 5-game losing streak for the White Sox. Good start again, though, for Jonathan Cannon. 3 walks for the number 1 pick, Travis Bazzana, who was fast-tracked up to the majors, struggled early, but he's hitting like 500 in his last 10 games. Much like Kyle Teel, he has really figured it out. Unlike Kyle Teel, I don't think he's going to have a ratings penalty. Matt Thaiss is back healthy as we get swept by Cleveland. That is now 7 losses in a row for those keeping track at home. We do get Thaiss back, and we are going to DFA Omar Narvaez. I want to give him an opportunity to go into free agency and play for a contender because he's probably not going to be back after this year anyway. We're going to play this last game in the Tigers series. I want to get a chance to utilize Jonathan Cannon. So the losing streak at 7 ended in the first game, largely because Drew Thorpe started, although we ended up scoring 12 runs. Here in the second game, Matt Thaiss has a 10-game hitting streak on the line. Do not bother to look at the scoreboard as he pops it up. Should be caught by the catcher, Tyrone Lorenzo, and it will. So we ended up losing this game 12-0. Not very good. Certainly a far cry from our 12-3 win to start the series. Reese Olson goes 8 1/3 scoreless. The Tigers raked. They finished with 17 hits. Jairo Iriarte does not make it out of the first inning, but interestingly, he does not allow an earned run because we had 4 errors! 4! How does that happen? We had more errors than offensive base runners. Just 2 hits and a walk. That is horrible. Iriarte strained his pec. It looks like he didn't pitch great, but the bullpen was awful and the position players were a disgrace. Steven Wilson will be called backup. It is nice that we won this game 12-3. Drew Thorpe, though, believe it or not, did not actually pitch all that well. This might be the first time we had a good team performance in a Drew Thorpe game. It took us till August to finally do that. So that game wrapped up our 7-game losing streak, and there were some bad losses, including a shaky performance from Drew Thorpe. 5 1/3 innings, allowing 5 runs, although the numbers don't really tell the story. He had 5 scoreless innings, and then it just kind of got away from him. So 2 not-so-great starts for his standards. I'm really not worried about it, given how good he's been this year, and it's not even like he was all that bad to begin with. So that brings us to this last game here against... How many friggin' injuries are we going to get? Jesus Christ. That brings us to the last game of the series against Detroit. But before that, Kyle Teel has gone through his 10-game penalty, and it's been bad. Really bad. His numbers have taken a hit. His WAR is like cut in half. 150 average, 375 OPS. He did kind of good early in the Angels series, but then it fell off bad. So thank goodness we get to push his ratings back up by 20. They're a little higher than they were originally because he had some natural progression in between the time that we changed his ratings to now. So they're a little better than they were previously, but that's why. We pushed everything back up by exactly 20. So here we go into this last game against the Tigers, the rubber match, as we look to win the series against currently the top team in the American League Central, although it's not by much. Cleveland and Minnesota, both within a game of Detroit. The Tigers, the only team in that group to have made a move during the trade deadline, though, adding Bo Bichette. I really wanted to make a move for Minnesota, and I thought about one for Cleveland, but there just were not moves to make. 2 blowouts so far. We won the first game 12-3 and lost the second game 12-0 with maybe the worst individual team performance of the year. And that says a lot when you are the Chicago White Sox. Here is Jonathan Cannon. I think the best way to describe his season is some performances, he looks like Nolan Ryan in his prime. Other performances, he looks like Nolan Ryan today as like a 70-something-year-old grandpa. Not a great start here as Bo Bichette belts it into the gap. That's going to go for a leadoff double. And the Tigers get an early runner in scoring position, his 17th of the year. Why did he cut the hair? He lost all of his aura. Parker Meadows now up for the Tigers. This one is belted into left for a single. Bichette rounding third, heads to the plate. He is safe, and Detroit already leads 1-0. So you're telling me it's going to be one of those starts for Cannon where he goes like 2 innings and allows 7. Yay. Mike Yastrzemski draws a walk. He was acquired for Matt Vierling. Don't know why the Tigers made that move, but shout out to the Giants, I guess. Gleyber Torres goes down on the sinker. Good pitch by Cannon, who would get out of the inning, only having allowed the 1 run, so I guess it could have been worse. Here is the rookie Jackson Jobe, former top 3 pick. Rare Alavila W. He's been up and down as a rookie. He's shown some good things, and for a young guy who's only, 22 years old, he's given the Tigers some hope and excitement for the future. 1-2-3 start. Luis Robert flies out into the shallow infield where it is caught by Colt Keefe. That'll bring us into the second, hoping for a better inning from Cannon, where he led up 3 base runners and allowed the first run of the game. Jake Rogers, the catcher, is up, sends that one up the middle for a single. The former Tiger, Akil Baddoo, recovers it. A revenge game and I guess a revenge series for Baddoo, who went 1 for 5 in the first game, drove in a pair, and then did not play in the second game, which for his sake is probably a good thing. 2 away, swinging on this on the cutter for Bo Bichette. Cannon gets out of it. He's looking better after his slow start, as that'll send us bottom 2. Brian Ramos draws a walk. Tough pitch to lay off there on the fastball, but he does. So the leadoff runner is aboard. That'll bring up the catcher, Kyle Teel, with his ratings back. 3-2, and Teel ignites this one into left. Flip at the bat. That one is long gone. 438 feet for Kyle Teel, his 10th of the year. He got his ratings back, and the very first at bat, he goes yard. A 440-foot nuke looking to get out of the cold streak. So the White Sox take the lead. It's 2-1 with one of the most impressive swings we have seen so far from Kyle Teel. Before the month and before his ratings went down, he had 9 home runs in 57 games. If you put that to a full season's length of time, that's around 30 home runs. That is really good power upside that he's shown us so far. The hits are going to keep on coming with 1 away. A single into right by Josh Rojas. 106 off the bat. He hit that one well. Bobby Dalbec lines it into right for another hit. This one will roll all the way to the wall. He's looking for extras. Rojas will hold up at third. And so the White Sox have 2 runners in scoring position in a big spot for Zach DeLoach, who has not played much. He's just 0 for 3 so far. But DeLoach gets that one over the head of Colt Keefe. Run scores. Second looks to join. And the White Sox lead 4-1 with a 2-run single for the newcomer, Zach DeLoach. 2 gone now for Benintendi, swinging a miss on the cutter. Jobe showing off some of his filthy stuff, but not before allowing 4 with a 2-run homer by Kyle Teel and a 2-run single by Zach DeLoach, as that'll bring us into the third. My glorious Pookie Bear King, Riley Green, singles into left. Is that ball stuck to his arm? Get rid of it. Okay, there we go. I was going to say, if the ball is glued to Benintendi's hand, that might be a problem. Big swing and a miss on the 1-1 sweeper for Torres. Green hits for second. Can he go any slower? If he was actually trying to steal, Kyle Teel would have gunned him out quickly. The problem is it took him a while to get to the ball and get out of Torres' way. 1-2, put on the ground over to short. Bobby Dalbec is playing short. Yes, desperate times call for desperate measures, with Nick Maton, the former Tiger, getting the day off. He would make the play. Remains 4-1 as we go into the bottom of the third. Luis Robert draws a walk, continuing his impressive season of drawing a lot of walks. That'll bring in Brian Ramos. Walked his first time up, And Ramos hits this one well into center. That goes for a hit. Lubob around second, heads for third. The throw from Meadows is not in time. Quick start for Brian Ramos. He's reached base twice. 2-1, nobody out. Great chance to add to the lead for the White Sox. That'll bring up Kyle Teal. The count is even at 2-2 as that one gets by Rogers. Lubob is going to head back to third, but Brian Ramos will make it over to second base. And now we've got 2 runners on the corners with nobody out. Count is full for Teal. The great chance to break the door open on this game, but he draws a walk. That works too. Bases are loaded, nobody out, and it will not be Jackson Jobe who stays in the game. He has really struggled, and manager A.J. Hinch is going to take him out. Taking his spot will be the veteran Alex Cobb, who is being thrown into quite the conundrum here. Bases loaded, nobody out. There's no way we don't score anybody, right? There's nobody out. We've got to get at least 1 or 2, you would think. Cobb has had a solid year, 3.36 ERA. Andrew Vaughn will get things started, 2-2. Got him looking on the high outside splitter. Great pitch by Cobb for out number 1. Josh Rojas swinging a miss on the knuckle curve. That pitch was at his knees. Shouldn't have chased it. Now there's 2 away, and we've got to get a base hit, or I guess a walk, to drive in one of these runs. It's big hit Bobby, the 1-1. Dahlbeck on the ground to third. Play is made. Throw to first is in time. That's right, folks. The White Sox had the bases loaded with nobody out, and we scored no one. Absolutely no one. I mean, are we really that surprised? It is very on brand. Let's move into the 4th. We've had 2 blowouts so far. We could have had a chance to score 12 runs in this game if, we took advantage of our bases loaded opportunity. Here's Colt Keith. Grounds it to second. Gets by the diving glove of Brian Ramos. Got to start somewhere if you're Detroit. And so they get the 1-out single with the second-year man, Colt Keith. He is aboard for Andy Ibanez. Sends this one into center where his former teammate, Akil Yabba-Dabba-Doo, will track it down, makes the play as it remains 4-1. Jonathan Cannon very quietly has turned this into a really quality outing. 4 innings of 1-run ball for the righty as we move into the bottom of the 4th. Zach DeLoach drove in a pair his last time up, first 2 RBIs of the year. This one is hit softly. Will they make the play? No. Good diving effort. It's short by Bo Bichette, but it does go for a base hit. And Zach DeLoach is now 2 for 2 today. Back to the top of the order, Akil Baddoo hitting nearly 300. He's been a very positive addition for us, but he grounds it to short. Bichette flips it to Keith. Over to Spencer Torkelson. It's a 6-4-3 double play. So much for that base runner as that sends us into the 5th. Bo Bichette leads things off, sends it into right. DeLoach cuts it off quickly, but not before Bo Bichette gets his second hit of the game. A quick single giving the Tigers a runner. Parker Meadows now launches this ball into right center, and the White Sox can only watch it fly. 423 feet for the center fielder Parker Meadows, his 12th of the year, and the Tigers are within 1. That'll make it 4-3. Big swing for Meadows. They really needed that one. It comes at a big time for them. We're going to roll with Cannon for the time being as Riley Green belts it into the right center gap. Baddoo gets to it at the wall, but not before Riley Green hits a double. A great start from Jonathan Cannon has gone south quickly. 3 straight hard-hit balls for Detroit, and we're not going to take our chances any further. Shane Smith will come out of the bullpen, the Rule 5 pick. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. He hasn't been very good, but he is 3-0, if that's worth anything. Mike Yastrzemski singles into left, and the hits keep on coming. Rojas gets rid of the ball really slowly as Riley Green is safe at home. There's a chance we could have made the play if he wasn't Molasses throwing the ball. Runner heads for second. Throw from Teal is a bit high, and the Tigers have a runner in scoring position with nobody out with a chance to take the lead. There's still nobody out. By the way, we were up by 3 going into the inning. Torres, blooper into right. DeLoach will not make the play. They're going to keep the runner at third. And so now the Tigers have runners on the corners with nobody out. They can turn this into a huge inning possibly. Big at bat for Spencer Torkelson. That one's a swing and a miss. Gets by Teal. So the 1 runner, Torres, makes it to second. Yastrzemski holds up at third. And now there's runners in scoring position with one away for Colt Keith. Base hit brings home 2, but he goes down on the fastball. Big strikeout for Shane Smith. We really needed that one. Jake Rogers now 1-2. Swing and a miss! Smith strikes out 3 and keeps it tied at 4. Great job out of the bullpen by Shane Smith, but still obviously not a great inning as the Tigers score 3 and they tie it up. Leading off the bottom of the 5th will be Brian Ramos behind 1-2. Nice pitch. Splitter from Alex Cobb, who's done a really good job since coming in for Jackson Jobe. 3 scoreless innings for the veteran righty as Chicago turns to Cam Boozer. Here in the 6th, 69 innings pitched on the dot. Nice. Parker Meadows is at a big game. 2 hits, including the 2-run shot. Draws a walk. Meadows is driven in 3. So he's aboard with 2 away for Riley Green. Swinging a miss on the inside fastball. Good inning for Boozer. Remains tied at 4. The Tigers obviously need all the wins they can get. Only 1 game ahead of Minnesota. 1.5 ahead of Cleveland, while us and the Royals battle for the dumpster. Josh Rojas draws a walk with 1 away here in the 6th. The White Sox add another base runner. That'll bring up Bobby Dalbec. Count is full, 1 for 2 so far, and he goes down on the knuckle curve. High and inside, he wanted to swing. Don't know if that would have been a strike, but a great pitch nonetheless. As DeLoach lines it into right. Zach DeLoach is 3 for 3. He's having himself an afternoon. Rojas safe at 3rd, wanted to be aggressive, and it pays off. Runners on the corners, 1-2 for Baddoo. He sends this one nicely into left center. He hits Godson Carey at the track, at the wall. It is eventually caught by Parker Meadows. I thought that one had a chance to make it over. Baddoo disappointed with himself as that brings us into the 7th. Game still tied at 4. We have not scored since that big 2nd inning. Here are some numbers to understand how bad the White Sox bullpen has been this year. Now, oddly enough, we're 4th in innings. I guess the starters got to pitch longer. But otherwise, as we know, the bullpen has been horrific. Grant Holman's been a positive addition, though. 4.18 ERA. The whip is kind of high, though. He's allowing a .328 batting average against righties. Facing off against Gleyber Torres. Count is even 2-2. Swung way too early on the slider. Did he swing before the pitch was thrown? I mean, what was he doing there? Good inning for Holman. We'll go bottom 7. Will Vest is in for the Tigers. Night and day looking at these bullpens. We know how good the Tigers have it with so many great elite relievers. Hence why they, for a 2nd year in a row, have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. Benintendi gets a leadoff walk, and the White Sox start the inning with a runner aboard. That'll bring up Brian Ramos, 1-1. Belts it up the middle. 118 exit velo. My God, did he hit that ball hard. Hardest hit of his career. One of the hardest hits probably anyone has had in the majors all year. 2 on, 1 away. Kyle Teal puts it right on the ground. Bichette to Keith, over to Torque. No, he's safe! Good hustle by Kyle Teal to keep the inning alive, and that gives us a big opportunity here with Vaughn. Full count, runners on the corners, 2 away. Loops this one into right, and it will not drop as it is caught by Yastrzemski. Still tied at 4, that'll bring us into the 8th. Justin Anderson is in. His ERA has gone down in the 12s. That's progress. He's only allowing a .441 batting average against righties and .480 against lefties. But it is an improvement. Got to start somewhere. Colt Keith goes down to the inside sinker. Great pitch by Anderson. Now Andy Ibanez chases the low cutter. I've got to say, the White Sox bullpen's been quite good. 4 scoreless from the pen. Bottom 8. Brant Herter, my demon, is in for Detroit. 66.2 innings. He has an ERA of 1.22. That is ridiculous. Made the All-Star team this year for the first time in his career. 2 away for DeLoach. Check swing. Went around. That sweeper is just unhittable. And DeLoach, who's 3 for 3 today, gets made look like a fool. Steven Wilson in here for the 9th. We're going to use damn near our entire bullpen at this rate. Wilson will face off against Bo Bichette, top of the order up for the Tigers as he goes down on the circle change. Good pitch by Wilson to get things started. That'll bring up Parker Meadows, who's been their best player so far today. Goes down looking on the fastball. Another strikeout for Steven Wilson. looking to strike out the side. 2-2 for Riley Green. Not a strikeout. Vaughn deflects it, flips it over to Wilson. 1-2-3 inning, and the game remains tied at 4. The Tigers' offense has gone cold. They haven't scored since the 5th. Top of the order up for the White Sox. Nick Maton just entered earlier as a defensive substitution. Lefty, lefty, righty. Interesting for the White Sox against the lefty Brant Herter. He strikes out Akil Baddoo, and he also gets Maton on the inside sinker this time. Brant Herter is ridiculous. How are you supposed to hit his stuff? 2 away for Lou Bob. 3-2. Hit sharply to second. Colt Keith makes the play. And through 9, we do not have a winner. This game is headed to extras. So with the leadoff runner at second base, we're going to bring in our high leverage man, James Karinchak, who's having a really good month, having a really strong summer. Even when his ERA was in the 8s, I wanted to stand by him, and that decision has clearly paid off. Torres to short. Good play by Dalbec. Throw to first is in time. Great defense by Bobby Dalbec to gun him down by milliseconds. They've got to get a base hit here from Torkelson. On the ground to second. Ramos scoops it. Backhanded throw is in time. And the Tigers, despite leading the inning off with the extra innings runner, do not score anybody. Perfect opportunity for us to score. They're not going to keep Herter in. I don't know why. He has the stamina to do it. Instead, it's John Brebbia, whose ERA is 27, and his pitching clutch is 27. Ramos into right as is caught by Yastrzemski. We're going to send the runner to third. Luis Robert's fast. I trust him to get there, and he does. It gives us the opportunity for a sacrifice hit or a sacrifice run as well off of a fly ball. Kyle Teal looking for the walk-off. Got him looking! He should have swung the bat there. A walk doesn't really do as good, since the winning run is at third. Would have put a force out at first and second. 1-2 for Vaughn. Hits it into right. And it's going to drop! Luis Robert will score. And the White Sox win this game, end this series 5-4. We hadn't scored since the second inning, and we kind of mismanaged that 10th. But Andrew Vaughn comes up big to win it for the South Side Sluggers, who beat the Tigers in 3. Overall, a really fun game. We obviously started off hot. Jonathan Cannon let it get away from him in the 5th. But the bullpen, as you'll see, was terrific for both teams. Job struggled, and then the pen was outstanding for the Tigers. 9 runs, 5 walks for the White Sox. Look at the bullpen. Smith allowed the 2 hits, but the Tigers had no hits over the 5 innings after that, and they had no base runners after the 6th. Our bullpen, which has been really bad this year, had their best performance of the season, and we did it without using Penn Murphy. Let's get through the month of August. We've got the Royals twice, along with the Braves, Twins, and Yankees. Here against Kansas City, we're tied at 4. We were down 4-0 going into the 9th, but we scored 4 to tie it. The offense came up clutch, and it looks like we're headed to extras for a second straight game as Vinny Pasquantino pops it into left. An undramatic 10th inning. Andrew Benintendi hits a 3-run shot. We had a couple runs alongside it to win this game 9-4. We had nothing going into the 9th inning. Our offense really struggled against the Royals and against their starter, Alec Marsh, who went 7 scoreless, but it didn't matter. Here in the next game, we're down 10-4. Miguel Vargas, though, has 2 homers looking for a third, but he goes down on the fastball. Carlos Hernandez with the strikeout. Royals win this game by the score of 10-4. Vargas tried to carry the load for the offense, but nobody else really did well. Bad start from Bryce Wilson. 3 innings, 6 earned. He gets the loss. As we would continue to simulate, Charles LeBlanc is back. So we're going to send down Zach DeLoach, but I want to get him back up, given that he looked awfully good in that Tigers game. Well, sure enough, it only would take us a day later, because Corey Julks fractured his forearm and will be out for the year. Now, on the same day, Michael A. Taylor comes off of the 60-day injured list, but Taylor will not take Julks' spot. We're going to DFA him as well. There's just not really a reason to keep him and continue giving him at-bats when his OPS starts with the number 4. We might as well go with some young guys, and we might as well give him the chance to go to a playoff team. Meanwhile, Zach DeLoach will come right back to the big league squad. So that brings us to this next series against the Royals, but this time at home. We just simulated our last 7 games, and we did win the road series against Kansas City, but we went 2-5 overall. 2-0 when Drew Thorpe pitches, and 0-5 when anybody else does. This game is 1-0. Daniel Lynch has thrown 7 2/3 scoreless innings, looking to make it 8. We've got 2-1, though. Big spot for Rojas, who pops it up, slams the bat in frustration, as it will be caught. 8 scoreless innings for Daniel Lynch. And the White Sox lose this game 4-1. Nelson Velasquez would put icing on the cake with a 3-run homer. Luis Robert would get a homer of his own, but it will not be enough. So the Royals take this one. They end up winning this series, as they would end up sweeping us. Jairo Iriarte, who's been dinged up, will come back. I feel like he's made of glass. Like, he cannot consistently stay healthy. Since we called up Steven Wilson, it has been mostly a disaster. So he's going to go right back down to AAA. We ended up getting swept by Kansas City, and that brings us to this series against the Yankees. Hitting streak on the line for Akil Baddoo, who's hitting .326. OPS is in the mid-800s. He has been fantastic for us, but it looks like the hit streak will come to an end as he flies out to center, where it will be caught for the second out of the frame by Cody Bellinger. Luis Robert would give us the lead, 3-2, where we would end up winning it. I'm convinced we can only win Drew Thorpe starts. Drew Thorpe pitched in this game, former Yankee draft pick. 6 innings, 1 run allowed. It was unearned. We had 3 more errors in this game. I don't know what's going on with the defense, but it has been a train wreck. Drew Thorpe was really good. Luis Robert was great. He drove in all 3 runs, but the defense has been just horrible. We are 5th in terms of the most errors. We are 5th to last in terms of fielding percentage. I'm surprised we're that high to begin with. Here in this next game against the Yankees, Lou Bob continues his dominance. 2 for 4 with a homer. He's driven in a pair. We're in the bottom of the 11th where it's tied at 6. Passed ball. The runners go, and that puts them in a pickle. We're going to have everybody go to the next base, so that way we can at least get the one guy at second. But that's not ideal. A base-running blunder for Chicago, and now the 1-2 for Luis Robert. He goes down on the sinker. Still tied at 6. Both offenses played well early in this game, but have fallen asleep in the extras. Into the 13th. Still no runs since the 7th. Bases loaded. 1 away. Volpe on the ground. Vaughn tags the base. Get rid of the ball! Runner is safe at home. Why did he look like a sloth throwing the ball? I was spamming the X button as soon as he tagged the base. Cabrera grounds it to Vaughn again. He tags the bag. I guess it could have been worse, all things considered, with the bases loaded. We only allow 1, but we could have doubled them up, I feel like. Now it's time to try to win the game here in the 13th. Ramos at second. Nick Maton gets us started. He has come back down to earth, hitting below 250. Pops it into right center. Bellinger makes the play. We are going to send the runner where he is going to slide safely. So Ramos is 90 feet away from home. Sacrifice fly, sacrifice hit. That could drive him in. 3-2. Dalbec swinging a miss on the fastball. Big pitch by the closer, Devin Williams. Made the All-Star team this year. Likely going to make a lot of money this offseason as it comes down to the catcher, Matt Thaiss. Sends this one into left. It's got a little bit of carry. Near the wall, it is caught by Jason Dominguez. And the Yankees win this game by the final score of 7-6. On one hand, the offense played pretty well. 6 runs, 13 hits. That's quite good. But we had 4 chances in extra innings with the extra innings runner, and we did not score once. Got to be more clutch than that. So as we continue to simulate through the final days of August, Jairo Iriarte strained his bicep. Is this guy seriously going to give us a full start? I think he's shown some good flashes, but my goodness, he cannot stay healthy. Neither can Charles LeBlanc, apparently. He fractures his arm, another injury for him, likely ending his season at just 11 games. Brooks Baldwin's been playing really well as of recent. Started off slow in AAA, but he's been balling, and I think he deserves another opportunity with the big league team. Another infielder down. Josh Rojas pulled his hammy. We're not going to add his replacement just yet, since we're right at September call-ups. End up getting swept by the Yankees with a not-so-great start by Jonathan Cannon. Over the last 2 weeks, we are 3-10. 3-0 in Drew Thorpe starts, and 0-10 when it's anybody else. We are 49-87. We had, honestly, a really bad month, and we're right back into last place, and last place pretty convincingly. Feels good to be back where we belong, I guess. So that brings us into September, In terms of wheel spins, I feel like there's a kind of an easy one with Akil Baddoo, who hasn't played very well over the last couple of games against the Yankees. But otherwise, he's been a phenomenal addition so far. He's already like 4th in terms of position players in WAR, and we've had him for a month. Kyle Teal has continued to struggle even with getting his ratings back. It seems like that stretch in August early in the month has really hurt him and has led him to hitting the rookie wall. As we go into September, it's also time for September call-ups, and this is an opportunity for us to get some younger guys, some more Major League experience going into next year. We have some young players who are performing at a pretty high level currently in the farm system who may be worth a call-up. Noah Schultz, perhaps. Maybe Hagen Smith. Maybe Colson Montgomery. Maybe those guys get wheel spins if they get called up to the big leagues. Let me know if you think we should bring them up to kick off September, the final month of the regular season, as we look to wrap up season number 1 in the next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. Peace out.